Fab.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Friday's webinar. It's myself and Stanley and Matt. Morning,
Hi,
Matt.
everybody. Nice to see everyone.
So Matt's going to be the question master today, and he's going to manage the chat. I'm going to be talking about marketing automation software, which is a term that most people are not familiar with, but you're probably familiar with things like Hubspot and InfusionSoft, and the one that we use is actually SharpSpring. So before we go, I'm going to run a poll. This always allows us to get an idea of what the audience are doing, but also allows time for a few people to catch up. A lot of the regulars are now coming on board. So morning, Ismay. Morning, Dennis. Let's just run the poll and if you can let me know if you can see it. Also, you'll notice top right handouts as well. You can download the PDF as well if you want to. For some strange reason, our logo is not loaded this morning, which is very irritating, but never mind. So I'm going to read the poll out. Can you see the poll, Matt?
Absolutely.
Excellent. What software do you use to manage and communicate with your customers during various marketing and sales processes? I've not used any before. I'm new to marketing, or I'm not currently in a marketing role. We currently use email software, e.g. MailChimp. I mean, there's lots of others out there, but that's probably one of the most common ones. We currently use social posting software, e.g. Hootsuite. We manage our customer database with spreadsheets. That's remarkably common. We use free CRM software. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management, or sometimes Customer Relationship Marketing, but CRM software, e.g. Zoho or Hubspot, where you get a limited number of licenses, but you get them for free. We use paid CRM software like Salesforce or Dynamics. This is where people are actually paying an amount per month. And we use marketing automation software like HubSpot or InfusionSoft. So although HubSpot do this free CRM software, they're actually probably the most well-known marketing automation software. InfusionSoft is quite a lot lower cost, but again, is really, really well known. So, so 30% haven't used anything, which doesn't really surprise me. It's not an area that we're particularly well up on in the UK. 30% are using MailChimp, which actually I thought that would be higher. Maybe they don't realize this relates to people using email marketing. 20% are using Hootsuite and other software posting tools. And then you've got a few people still using spreadsheets, which, you know, isn't surprising. If you've only got a few customers, that's fine. And then generally the numbers get lower and lower. So we've got quite an innocent audience, I think is probably a way of describing it today. I don't think they're going to know a lot about the subject. So that's really useful to know.
I think you said it perfectly yesterday, Anne. Marketing automation, you know, it tends to scare some people, but actually it's something that's relatively simple to use, isn't it? And it's relatively simple to set up, and once set up can save you a ton of time.
Oh, absolutely. So just for a bit of housekeeping then. So this should take about 55 minutes. So we should finish for some questions at the end. I don't know whether you can see at the bottom, if you can make a note of that, bit.ly/Annika-survey. That's the survey we're running at the moment. It would be great if a few more people could fill it in. We've only got about another week or so to complete that. And it's great to have lots of people of different size companies filling that in. So it'd be brilliant if some of you can fill that in. Anne Stanley's my Twitter handle and my LinkedIn handle, if anybody wants to LinkedIn to me as well. The video will be available in a couple of hours' time. And I think that's it for now. And if you haven't already downloaded the handouts, then please do. So let's get going. Okay. Sometimes I just need to, the handout should be available. Is somebody saying they can't see them?
Yes, I've just hit share on it, so I believe that's sorted.
Excellent. That's brilliant. I forget when you first, if you don't press the right button, then they don't always pop up straight away. But good to see Susan's got them. Excellent. Let's get going then. We've got 50 people in the room, which is great. So First of all, a little bit about myself. 2022 is my 20th year in digital marketing, which is extremely scary. And I'm basically the founder and MD. Well, I'm now CEO of Annika Digital. I've been the MD until last year when Darren Wynn's taken over as MD, and I'm focusing more on external consultancy and business development and training. That's my three main passions. 15 years of running Annika. As I said, it was our 15th birthday yesterday. Well, this month really. So we had a bit of a party where everybody from all over the country joined us back in the office, which was amazing. So it was good to see everybody. So we've been around since 2007. There's 27 of us. You can see some of the smiley faces on the right hand side. We've got about 45 clients, and we own our own office just by the river in the middle of Leicester. It's an amazing office which we spent a year doing up, and we often run events there and training courses. We work with about 45 clients, all different sizes. You'll know quite a few of them, people like Experian, Palex, Dykeman Shoes, to name just a few, and then quite a lot of B2B clients who are often on the call, people like Domino Printing, AA Labels, other local companies like the university, and we do a lot of work with councils as well, and also D2N2 and the local chamber. We do a lot of training with them as well. So what I'm going to cover today is I'm going to give you a bit of background to the sales and marketing funnels, which is a term that we use to describe the process that people go through when they're thinking about buying something, and also the way that the salespeople look at it, which is slightly different. And they're going to talk about what is marketing automation software, or MAS. It's easier to write that every time. And I'm going to give you a tour of our software that we use. We're a reseller for SharpSpring marketing automation. The reason we're a reseller for SharpSpring is that it's just sold via agencies, and it's designed for agencies that have got multiple clients. So it's therefore quite a lot cheaper. It's about a third of the cost of Hubspot, but it's got a huge amount of functionality. So we actually use it for part of the function. We use it mainly for marketing. We don't use it for sales, actually. We use our timer management tool, which is completely agency specific. But we have got a number of clients that use it as well. And we also provide help with them, getting them on board. But quite a few of our other clients have got other marketing automation software. So I'm just using this as examples, because in a lot of cases, the other tools will do exactly the same thing. I'm going to go through what you can use MAS for marketing, and then what you can use marketing automation for sales. So I'm only going to pick out the highlights, because they can do a huge amount of other things. And so I've got a general sort of catch-all slide with all the functionality, additional sort of functionality that you can use. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of information about how you choose a supplier. It's quite a daunting process choosing a software supplier, because when I first looked at this, which was over 6 years ago, there was only about 20 people in the market, and there's now about 500. So every single time I do a version of this presentation, the chart gets more and more complicated. I mean, please don't think that this is just a sales pitch for SharpSpring. As I said, it's more about how you use marketing automation to improve your processes. And there are platforms that you can buy from sort of a couple of £100 a month. And if you think about the cost savings of not buying everything else, really the whole point of this is to try and buy something that does everything. So it's a sort of really integrated solution, which means that you have one piece of software rather than 4 or 5 others. Okay, so background to sales and marketing funnels then. So first of all, this is a typical marketing funnel. I mean, they do get called different things at the different stages, but effectively, we think about the way that an audience or an individual becomes aware of a brand or their need for a product. So you can do brand awareness in 2 ways, really. Often we talk about awareness rather than brand awareness, but in a marketing funnel, we tend to talk about people becoming aware of the brand. We then go through a sort of an education and consideration process. And quite often what will also happen is that We'll also talk about this being an acquisition stage where people are getting people to come to their website or go into their shop or their retail desk or some form of outlet. So this is often where people are sort of engaging with you for the first time. It could even be on your social profiles. We then get to the really important bit, which is the conversion stage. And this is really where an action takes place. And of course, there's lots of different types of conversions. A conversion could be filling in a form. It could be an e-commerce sale, or it could be picking up the phone and talking to somebody, or it could be going into a shop. So a conversion can take place both online and offline. And sometimes there can be sort of two stages to this. So you might have a conversion which is a lead generated online or a phone call, and then later on you get a visit from a salesperson or there's a consultancy sale. So once there's a conversion, then hopefully you will become a customer. And then we then talk about retention and customer service, which is sort of basically what happens to keep you happy as a customer and also to upsell and cross-sell to you. And then the final stage of the marketing funnel is then the idea that you get customers to recommend you to their colleagues and peers. And so we have things like reviews and testimonials and case studies as a way of encouraging all of that. I've just realised I've left my water by the sink, so I'm having to drink tea. So I apologise for keep sipping. Now, if you compare this with the sales funnel, some of the stages are similar. So you've got awareness up here. And then you've got the idea that people sort of know who you are and start visiting your site. But they don't necessarily make themselves known to you. And this is because at the start of the process, they're often an anonymous user or anonymous visitor. And then what happens is that at some point in the process, they then make themselves known to you by basically, usually by filling in a form, but it could also be that they're on your email list and they click a link and then the software identifies who they are. Once they've made themselves aware or you aware of themselves, then they normally have some form of engagement process, which might be reading content on your site, watching your webinars or podcasts, meeting you at an event, etc. And so at that point, then what happens is that you start to go from somebody that's just a casual visitor to your site, that's somebody that might actually want to do business with you. And then what happens is that at that point, they tend to become what is called a lead. And they actually, the sales team will create what's called an opportunity, which is basically an opportunity to do business with that prospect. I'm starting to introduce some of the terminology that's used. The terminology that's used in sales is really different from marketing, and considering we're doing exactly the same thing, it's quite surprising. So at the top here, we're talking about somebody that responds to an email being a marketing qualified lead. And then when actually you get to the point that there's an opportunity, they become a sales qualified lead. So here we're talking about the top of the funnel interactions, and here the middle of the funnel interactions. So once you've actually got an opportunity, there's a whole process of nurturing the target or this contact into becoming a hot lead, really. And this is why software often has things called lead scoring, which allows you to see who are the people that are in your database that are most likely to be interacting with you and engaging with you, and therefore more likely to be customers. So this is often based by the sorts of information they provide and the level of engagement, you know, the pages that they visit, the emails they open, the things that they download. And all of that behavior can be tracked using marketing automation software, which is why it's so powerful. Then we get to the bottom of the funnel, which is when they become a customer. And what traditionally happened was client relationship management software really sort of worked at this end, and then marketing software like email marketing and advertising sort of happened at the top. And the problem with that is that they weren't necessarily joined up. And even now you get software that's completely separate. So the whole concept of marketing automation is to actually join and integrate the marketing and the sales processes together, so that instead of having separate software, it seamlessly moves from one system, which is a marketing world, into the sales world. Now, I've tried to illustrate that by turning this on its side and actually showing you that in context of the different teams. So if you take the role of marketing, at the top of the funnel, they're really responsible for visibility, awareness, and traffic to your website. Whereas during the middle of the funnel, they're more responsible for establishing credibility and nurturing you or a potential client by providing really engaging content, blogs, webinars, conferences, anything that shows that they're a thought leader in their field. Then what happens is that they go on to the bottom of the funnel, where it's more to do with engaging customer education, encouraging advocacy, and a certain amount of marketing is designed around trying to get additional selling, cross-selling and upselling. When you come to the sales function, the role of sales, it's really about the qualifying of prospects and establishing their needs. And that happens in the middle of the funnel. And then it's convincing and converting for them to become a customer. And then it's upselling and cross-selling. Now, in the case of a complex B2B process, in a lot of cases, this is quite a consultative sale. So when we talk to clients, for example, we carry out a really detailed audit. We're making recommendations. We're actually educating the client in the processes of digital marketing and actually explaining what the best options are for them. And we're trying to be quite neutral. And that does seem like a bit of a conflict of interest, because we're also trying to sell our services. But actually, by providing really useful information, some of which a client can actually go off and implement themselves, that allows you to develop a lot of trust, and also allows us to understand the client in a lot of detail. So you see that a lot of sales now is very much more a consultancy sale rather than just a sort of pushing boxes and just, tick box and getting getting the check signed. So it's much more complicated than maybe a B2C, a consumer-based sale, which could all happen, online with really little involvement from the sales team or the customers team at all. I know there's quite a lot of questions. I'm trying not to answer them at the moment. So if there's anything, Matt, that you feel that you need my support on, if you make a note of it, we can come back to them afterwards.
Not a problem at all. Sounds good.
Yeah, I've sort of noticed in them, and I'm trying to ignore them at the same time. So what you get is a whole series of software that works at the different stages of the funnel. So as you know from lots of our previous webinars, we do a heck of a lot in advertising and marketing channels. So we use loads of software that relates to that. So a good example will be Google Ads. Now, interestingly, and social advertising, interestingly, quite a lot of marketing automation software actually have an API, which is a sort of a direct link into the advertising channels, so that they bring that data in directly. So that if you're doing advertising, for example, in Google Ads, you can then see if that lead has come from Google Ads and what keyword they were using or what ad they were using. So this actually means that even if you're using software like this, marketing automation software can backward integrate into advertising platforms, and it can also integrate into things like webinars as well. When you get into the middle of the funnel, marketing software is often around content and email, but also we use remarketing to re-engage with those people that we've had visibility with earlier on in the process. So, for example, if somebody comes over to your website, they click on a downloadable link, they look at a video, we can then put them into a list, and then we can do advertising to them at a later stage. So again, this is the sort of communication that we have in the marketing software, using things like Facebook and Google Ads remarketing. And then that way we're talking to them. But this can also include email. It can also include blogging and other methods of communication there as well. Once they're customers, then we can also email them as well. We can use MailChimp and things like that to do that. But we can also use customer relationship management software, which, to be honest, is creeping up backwards as much as it can. And a lot of big software like Salesforce also have their own marketing automation software. So actually, Salesforce have got a number of different products, but the most well-known is Pardot or Pardo, depending on how you'd like to pronounce it. Let me take you through to this next one. So what we've got to think about is what happens when somebody arrives on their site, and really understanding their motivation and what they're looking for. So every true marketeer creates a matrix or two, and this is one of mine. I've created a number over the years, and this is all to do with whether they trust you and whether they want to buy from you. So that's trust in pink and whether they want to buy in blue. So let me just look at the different combinations. So the ideal customer is one that wants to buy from you now or in the future, already knows and trusts you, and is basically ready to convert. So your job on the website is to make the buying process easy as possible and not to put them off. They don't do anything stupid. Don't make the form really difficult or the e-commerce shopping cart really difficult. And then they're going to convert into a customer, and they're going to be your perfect customer. However, unfortunately, that's probably only 1 to 5%, if you're lucky, of the people on your website. So we need to worry about the other 95 to 99%, and they come into the other 3 boxes. So first of all, let's look at the ones that you don't really want to worry too much about. And these ones are the ones that don't know you, don't trust you, and never going to want to buy. So these are probably going to be people that you don't need to worry about. You don't really need any action. They're just looking for free information often. They're unlikely to buy from you in the future, but they may recommend you to others. So you don't want to annoy them or basically, try and get rid of them. It's good that people are coming to your website. It's a good signal to Google from a search engine optimization perspective. Hopefully they'll share your information. They may even link to you. So having lots of people coming to your site is good, but they're not really the ones that you should be worrying about too much. And really the content that you create on your site, although these guys will find it useful, that's not really why you're doing it. So we won't worry too much about those. So let's focus on the other 2. So the next ones are the ones that don't know you or trust you, but they are ready to buy. So these are people that are not, that are not ready to buy. Maybe they're not ready to buy yet, that, they maybe want to buy in the future. You want to provide them with useful information or help them to become ready to buy. And you also need to reassure them with trust signals that you are the right person to be doing business with. So this is really where we focus on giving a lot of information away. So we provide a lot of the webinars and the blog information. We use all our trust signals. There's not many agencies that are 15 years old, particularly ones that were specifically digital marketing agencies. There's lots of other agencies that started off as something else and have become digital marketing agencies. We've got our new Google Premier Partner Award that we also got on our birthday this week. It's been a great week, guys. We've got all of our awards that we've won. So these are all the things that are going to help us move somebody from not trusting you to trusting you and hoping that they're going to buy. So that's the process that we need to do for them. The next one is the ones that already know and trust you, but they don't really want to buy. They may buy in the future, but you want to carry on providing useful information for them. You might be able to convince them that they might want to buy in the future. And again, they are quite likely to talk about you and share your information. It might be partners and suppliers and things like that. But eventually, hopefully, they will move over into that right-hand column. So all of these things are mechanisms to try and basically move people down from from a situation over here and get them all over into this top right corner, which is where you want them to be. So what I'm going to now cover is the naming conventions. I see Ismay's are asking a question about gated content. I'm going to come on to that in a bit, Ismay, about giving information away. I think there's so much free information out there that that isn't going to be a problem. And we're going to talk about it in context of gated content and ungated content. So I think I'm going to be able to answer that for you in a second. So let's talk about the way that people progress through this process. So first of all, you have your anonymous users. So these are the people that visit your site. You've got really very little idea who they are. There is technology out there, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, to identify their company details. But apart from that, you don't really know very much about them at all. Then you've got the people that then make themselves known to you. And there's various methods, which I'll bring up in a minute, for that to happen. So these are people that are filling in your forms, they're signing up for webinars, they're signing up for gated content, they're responding to emails. And because we know their device, we can link them through to the website. This does have quite a lot of privacy implications. So you do need to make sure, and I'm not going to talk about this at all today. So you do need to make sure that your privacy permission clause does mention that you're using this sort of software, because I know we're doing B2B, most of us are doing B2B, but it is important to mention it. Then what happens is that they'll become a lead rather than just a contact. So you can have all sorts of contacts, you can have business partners and all sorts of people in your database, but when they become a lead, they're effectively a prospect. And then what happens is that if they want to start talking to you about a new project or new business, they become an opportunity. And then what happens is that we can follow the opportunity through that pipeline. Now, I did mention just a minute ago that a lot of people use this for B2B. Because we can actually track sales and the value of sales, it can be done as a way of supplementing the information in an e-commerce website as well. And that's really powerful because the difference between a lot of email platforms is they're really focused around the specific email that you're sending out. And what you'll see in a minute is all the data is focused around the individual within the software rather than the email or the campaign. So that's really important. Now, once they've gone through the different stages of the pipeline, you've made your initial contact with them, you sent them a quote, you've had a meeting, then what's going to happen is ideally they're going to be one opportunity, which becomes a live project, or they're going to be a lost opportunity, which is obviously not so good. Because you can track all of this, you should, in theory, be able to predict. You can have percentages at the different stages as they go through the different stages of the sales pipeline. And then hopefully you can predict the amount of income that you come in based on the project value and the likely chance of you winning that contract. Now, what we do need to understand is how we go from I pressed the button too quickly. How we go from an anonymous visitor to a known contact. Now, the different software use slightly different systems, but they all involve some form of tracking, which goes onto your website, and also which means that there's cookies loaded onto your device, which means that you'll have a different cookie or tracking code on your laptop and your phone and your desktop. There's also tracked links, which go out with emails and go out with social posts. But effectively, these are the main methods of a person becoming a known user. They either complete a form on your website, they visit a page on your website, they click on a link from an email, or they click on a link from a social media. So just to go through a couple of definitions. So basically, it's a software platform that's used for integrating marketing and sales tasks. It's mainly used for lead generation, for nurturing B2B companies, particularly when they're by B2B companies, particularly where there's a long buying cycle. But it's also used by people that sell furniture, sell holidays, but also where you've got a lot of repeat sales, because then you're going to be trying to engage with people on a regular basis. So it's less likely to be used for very spontaneous consumer purchases, which are e-commerce, but pretty much it could work for anything else. So I'm just going to go through the key parts of the marketing automation software. So they all start with a CRM list or some form of data management of contact database. You generally have some forms on your website. These are custom forms where you can create custom fields and collect information so that the information then goes into the database in the middle. You're also going to have some tracking and analytics. This is done at the individual level, but you can also see an amalgamated tracking for the site as a whole. We're also going to have email and lead generation. This is usually things like email. It's very similar to MailChimp, but also social posting. You're then going to have lead nurturing and sales. So this is where you score individuals, but you can also track the sales pipeline. I'm not going to talk too much about that today because I'm focused on the marketing aspects of it, but there are a couple of slides on that at the end. And then you've got the automation, which is the automation of processes. So if you think you sign up for a newsletter, you get an automatic thank you, and then a week later you get a thank you for a join, or 24 hours later you get thank you for joining our list, and then you get a series of joining emails. Or if you buy a product, you get a thank you for buying our product. You then get an automatic email asking you to send a review. Those are the sorts of things I mean automation, but they can also relate to what you do on the site. So if you read a specific blog or you download a specific item, you can get an automatic email to say, hey, thank you for watching our webinar. Would you like to see more? Would you like to have a free audit, etc., etc.? And then finally, integration with other software. I've mentioned a few already. I've mentioned Google Ads software, mentioned webinar software. So when you get your initial software, there's quite a detailed and extensive setup process. It's a little bit more extensive than just using email marketing. If you've already got a CRM system in place, a lot of it will already have been done for you. And if you were involved in that process, you know what is involved. It's normally because the data around all your customers and contacts are all over the place. They're all in different formats. You've probably got city where it should be county, and you've got postcode in county, and you've got first name and last name in the same field, and it's a right mess. And you need a massive spreadsheet just to sort out your database. So there's quite a lot of just understanding what data you've got. And so what we tend to do to start with is we get the account set up to start with. So first of all, you've got to customize settings. Most software is American. So you want to localize it for the UK or whatever country you're in. You need to tag the website with relevant tracking codes. You also need to make sure that your email is coming through directly from yourselves, and that's a matter of changing. You have to work with your developer on tagging the website, or if you're using Tag Manager, but you also might need to work with your developer just to make sure that it's all tracking correctly. You need to set up all your staff users and profiles, and then you need to use any API connectors to link with other software like your CRM software, Google Ads, Gmail, WebEx, etc. All of those sorts of software. And then what we need to do is customize the settings. So this is where you upload your logos and brandings. You'll notice in us, we've got our logo top left. You want to create any opportunity stages. This is for the sales process. You want to set up campaigns. That's where did you hear about us? And you want to link any social profile like Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever you've got. Not all software has social profile linking. I'm going to show you some examples of that in this one. But if it does, it means, you might not need to use Hootsuite, because you can, instead of having a paid version of Hootsuite, you can use this instead. Then you've got your data collection, which is the bit that's the most time consuming. We usually have to take a few days on this, going backwards and forwards, working with the client, in order to improve the quality, because it depends obviously how much information they've got. Fortunately, with a big spreadsheet, it doesn't matter whether you've got 50 records or 50,000 records, you can do it en masse. But we've got to have to create any custom fields that are specific to you. So this might be industry sectors, it might be budgets, it might be type of service. We've got to create any website forms, which then have to be uploaded or integrated either by adding code to your site or by working with your developer. And then you've got to import lists via CSV, which is really easy, and you will need to do that on a regular basis. And you're going to map field names and add unsubscribes, etc. Now, just to clarify, some of this stuff you do once and you never have to do it again. So creating custom fields, you might occasionally have to do it, but once you've set up the forms, you won't need to do that again. But importing lists is something we do on a regular basis. It's really easy. I can show you that in a few steps. But once you've done most of this stuff, that's why we help with the onboarding, because you don't really need to learn how to do it multiple times. And it's much easier for us to help you get those processes done really quickly. Okay, so let's go through a tour of the actual platform. So when you open the platform, you go into like a dashboard. That you can choose the dashboard, but I open out mine on the contact manager. I have hidden the personal information. I've kept a couple of images, but here you'll see the email address and a few bits I've hidden underneath. You've got their lead score on the right-hand side. Most of these are around 20. This is because they've probably filled in a form and you know that they've been to your site a few times. You've got where, how you found out about them and if they've been assigned to an individual. We've got over 15,000, I think, contacts in our database. And so most of them are unassigned. That's quite normal if we're using it more for marketing. And as I did say, we now use a slightly different package, which merges with our invoicing and our time management software for actually doing our sales part. So we're not actually using the sales part of this anymore. We have done in the past. You can see you've got some menus down the side. These are relatively new, so I haven't got used to the icons yet. So I mainly use the big menus at the top. And the three main menus you need to worry about is the sales menu. And you can see you've got sales and reporting. So these are all the different reports that you can get. And then these are the different things that we're going to show you. So you've got different opportunities. You've got accounts, which is the business name. So if you've, we often talk in marketing about account-based marketing, and that's when you're targeting the business because you've got a number of people within that business who are engaging with you. So that's really useful for that. You've got meetings, and visitor ID is almost like a live log of everybody that's coming to your site. I'll show you that. I have to admit, I've got a slightly older screenshot on that one. We've changed our website in the last few weeks, and I've realized that ours wasn't capturing data in the right way, so I've had to go and sort that out this morning. So I know that's being fixed as we speak. We then go on to the marketing, which is the main one. You've got all the automation stuff around personas and workflows. I'm only going to cover a small amount of this. To be perfectly honest, most people won't use this to start with. This is almost phase 2. What you really focus in on is more the content section, which is things like your forms, your email, the content calendar. You can also use it for social listening. You can use it for create blogs, but we create blogs live on our sites rather than within this software, but that is also available. Then you've got all your reports, which of course you do. And then you've got some of your tracking, like your web insights, your campaigns, and some of your conversion goals, which can include things like sales, etc. The ads functionality is a US functionality. It's a remarketing, which we currently haven't got. And team calling is currently disabled at the moment for us as well. So we're not currently using those two. The final one I want to just show you is contacts, which is probably what you're going to use the most. So you've got contact management, you've got lead scoring, you've got importing of CSVs. Basically, CSV is a common comma segmented list, which is basically an Excel spreadsheet saved as a CSV. and then you've got the individual lists. And the good thing about lists is you can do different things with them. You can email to different lists, and you can group, or you can segment all your clients or your prospects into different groups based on their behavior. So if you're interested in all the people that maybe have engaged with a certain service, then you can see what blogs they've gone on, what pages, and then you can put them in a list specific to them. Okay, so what we're going to do in the next 20 minutes or so is we're just going to flick through really quickly the use of for various applications. So I'm not going to go through the tables per se, they're really for reference, but I'll do the first one and then you can see how they work for the others, and then you can refer back to them later. It's really designed as a sort of a checklist for you. So creation of forms and landing pages on your website. So this is a problem relating to the ability to just create a new form, particularly if you're not technical, and creating landing pages for specific promotions, and then also creating landing pages for doing A/B testing. This is part of what we call conversion rate optimization, which is where we're trying to improve the website by seeing if you change a feature on the page, which is the best. So you can use your website and content management system to create forms. And normally this is done by adding a plugin. So for example, we use WordPress. We use Form 7 within WordPress. We can also use third-party landing page creation tools such as Unbounce and Optimizer. There's a whole load here, Optimizely rather. And these are sort of separate softwares that you can buy. And what we can do within marketing automation is it allows you to create custom fields. It allows you to create a form. You can then add the form onto the website, either using an iframe, which is the same way that you would embed a video, or by data syncing, which involves a little bit more technical work. You might have to work with a developer to do that. But again, it's a one-off thing. So we can help you with that the first time. And then you can create landing pages or integrate with third-party software like these ones that I mentioned here. So if I show you what that looks like, so this is an example of a plugin we use. There's various different ones. Optimonster. We use a new one. I don't know whether, Matt, you can just check with Ed what the new one's called. So this is a pop-up that comes up on the site when you've been on the site for a certain amount of times, encouraging you to download the A10 strategy ebook, marketing framework. And if you go onto our website, please do download. And then what happens, you get taken to this form, which has been created within SharpSpring. And then basically we can then track exactly how you came to that form, who's completed that form, and then you go to a thank you page where you can download the PDF, and you also get sent to it via email. I did mention this earlier on, the advantages and disadvantages of gated content. So open content has a lot of SEO benefits because obviously a Google bot or a spider can't fill in a password. So if you've locked your website content down, it doesn't really have any SEO benefits. You don't know the user with gated content, but of course with open content, you don't know who they are. But if they've already been to your site or they've completed the form before, they've got that cookie, you are tracking them, you can tell when they return to your site what they actually look at. And also the way that it works is it does actually record the information before they make themselves known to you. So you do have a history from when they first started. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But you can target these people with open content using remarketing ads. So generally, unless it's really high value content like the A10 marketing framework, which is 50 pages, it's a really, chunky bit of work. We don't tend to use gated content. We prefer open content as much as possible. And you can also use these as lead magnets. So what that means is you actually do ads to promote it and get them to come back to that gated content. So hopefully that answers your questions, Ismay, that I know you asked earlier on. This is how you create a custom field. So this might be a field like industry or sector or client's birthday. And then you've got a choice of all these different options. So it can be text, it can be drop down. It can be a date field. It can even be an upload. And you can use them in different places. You can use them, you can use them as a field for leads or field for opportunities. So we tend to create most of these at the start. We look at the data you've already got, because basically if you're going to import data, you need somewhere to house it. But there's quite a lot of standard system fields. But, having the ability to create as many as you need of these is really important when you're choosing software. You then can create a form by selecting the fields. And if you need to create any more, you can just go and create a custom field here. So you can see that I've used some standard full fields that are already in the system, but I can also create something like description, which is a field that I've created, which is a long text field for them to actually put in their query. And then if you go and look that on the actual, this is if you're not familiar, we've got academy.anika.co.uk where you can request free access. So please, Matt, if you could put the URL of the Academy site, if you want to go and get free access to our learning materials. It's slightly locked down that CIM and the DIM materials. These are only for people that are actually on a course that's paid for. And we've got another, we're expecting another course, a funded course in April. So again, if any of you are interested, please let us know, because we're expecting to run another 12-week boot camp starting in April. Who's completed the form? So this is just the stats for the last couple of weeks. You can see we get a reasonable number every week. And we then can actually see who they are. And so therefore we can use this information. There's a GDPR request on that form as well. So if they fill that in, we can then use them to email on a weekly basis or whenever we send our next email out. So for tracking anonymous individuals and creating contacts then, so I won't go through this process as well. If you're familiar, if you get a sales call from Lead Forensics, it's quite similar it has similar functionality as that. But the advantage of marketing automation is the whole history of that customer is saved. So once they become a known visitor, you can see the whole history. This is a screenshot to show the people that are coming in. This sort of literally is changing minute by minute. I've highlighted this particular record. They've only been to the site one time, but you can see every page they've been to. You can see where they've come from. The green ones are people that we know. They've got a contact in the database. So this allows you to see sort of the proportion of people that are coming to your site that are actually known to you. And of course, the more people that are buying an e-commerce site, or the more people you'll get engaging with or signing up for your stuff, the more green you'll get. It's quite expensive to buy Lead Forensic and software similar to it. I know they've got some added functionality, so I'm not comparing apples with pears. I'm comparing apples with pears here. But considering all the other functionality you get with this software, if you are considering that, do look at marketing automation first, because I do think that having all the benefits of this type of software rather than just something that tracks, people visiting your sites, there's a lot more advantage of this, in my opinion. And I apologize for anybody that's selling that software, but that's from my experience. I think this works a lot better. Okay, so the other thing is the contact management, which I showed you earlier on. You can go to the contact section there. I'm just being messaged by Matt. He's asking me about, we'll have to answer that. Susan's question is about a second boot camp. That will be in East Midlands, but we are hoping to get some other boot camps as well, including the West Midlands later in the year, and also some more practical boot camps as well, depending on the success of our tenders. So watch this space, really. So this is my contact record, which I'm quite happy to share with you. It's got my email address, my phone number on the left. There's the custom fields tab there. And there's also the life of the lead, which is really interesting, which I'm going to show you next. I can put tasks, which I've not really gone into today. So I just created a test task yesterday just to show you what it looked like. And then you've got your finished activities underneath. You've then got a sort of a time scale of all the things and interactions. So this is emails being sent in and out. It's forms completed. I completed a couple of test forms where when I realized that some tracking wasn't quite working after the new website went live. So I've been playing around with tracking and filling in forms. This is when an opportunity was successfully completed. So it just sort of illustrates all the different interactions. So this can be completely integrated with Gmail or Outlook, which means that you can be doing all your emails without, even your sales team knowing that you're doing it almost. And then if somebody has to go and contact that lead, they can see every single interaction. So I can go and see that I filled in that form. Whereas if I clicked on the next link along, I could actually see what the email said. So it's a way of tracking all the engagement, which is why I like it so much. It's really, really powerful. The only thing I don't like about it is it goes left to right rather than up and down, but it still works really well because you've got enough space here to show what the individual integrations are. This is my engagement history. You've got various different ones you can click on. So in this case, they call it memberships, which is a bit of a strange terminology. But I'm looking at my email history, so you can see all the emails that I've been sent. If I was a client, that would be really useful because I can see whether I engage with them or not. Then for using it for CRM and list management. Obviously you don't have to, if you want to integrate it with something like Salesforce, you can. A lot of people are just using simple things like Excel. They've got their data all over the shop. And the marketing automation systems that you can buy, our one actually has an internal CRM system, but also integrates with external ones like Salesforce and Dynamics. You can also integrate with using Zapier, which is a way of getting databases to talk to each other. If you don't want to spend too much money on marketing software, then I would definitely get a marketing automation software that has CRM as well. So you don't have to buy, two lots of software. But a lot of our customers are really big. They've already got Salesforce. They've already got Dynamics. So we needed a system that would work with them as well. So that's why we went down the SharpSpring route. With regards to, this is importing a list, which you will need to do quite regularly. So you have to save the list as a CSV, and you have to create an extra column at the end called is unsubscribed. You upload your list, then you go to the next screen. There's various settings that you have to fill in, and then what you do is map the fields. So I expect Kate's in the audience. Yes, I thought you would be, Kate. So this happened to be your record. It was totally by accident. The first on one of my lists that I've been importing. So you can see it's mapping first name and first name. It's mapping company with company, but industry is, and I think sector is mapped with industry. So this is the standard names of the fields within SharpSpring, and this is exactly the same if you're using email as well. And I've blocked out Kate's personal details there, so not to give any GDPR information away. But it would be nice for you, Kate, to just mention what it is you do at the Old Sables, because I'm sure everybody's now very curious whether you run a nice restaurant or a hotel or something. With regards to email broadcasting, most of you are using MailChimp or other web-based software. If you do need to upgrade, it's often because you're having problems importing info or sales at, or it's not GDPR compliant, or because it's not tracking customer histories. The main advantage of marketing automation system is that it's integrated. You can upload your own list and templates, and the reports are really good as well. But to be honest, if you're used to using MailChimp, it's not that different. So you can start off with a load of templates. You can build your own templates. There's some standard templates within the software. If we do the onboarding for you, we will help you create that. And then this is our current email template, which was our Happy New Year template that we sent a couple of weeks ago. And you can see I've highlighted the box here. I'm in edit mode here. I can then go in and edit it. And then once I'm ready, I can then go and send it. So I hit the send button, and then I choose the lists I want to send it to. and I can send them in batches, or I can even hit all, but I wouldn't recommend you do that. If anybody's unsubscribed or their email is previously been shown to be inactive or wrong, a hard bounce, in other words, they won't receive another email from you. So they won't actually receive it. And then that's a message like that. I didn't actually run this yesterday, so a message similar to this will appear to show you the status and the fact that this is one from last year actually. This is what the stats look like. So this was for this New Year email. We had a really good opening rate of 32% and nearly 4%, which is 20% opening rate is pretty typical, and usually about 2% click-through rate. So that's really good. Our design is amazing now. Thank you, Tom. He's been doing a great job on the design. But you can actually go through by looking at the history and see who's clicked, who's unsubscribed. You can go in and clean your database up as a result of that information. And also you can use this to create workflows, which is one of the next sections. Social media and content. I won't spend too much time on this, but this sort of replaces software like Hootsuite, TweetDeck, Octopost. The main advantage that if you use it for social posting, then that link, it allows you to monitor their activity and engagement at, in that timeline that I showed you. So you can see not only if they've engaged with content on your website, but also any social posts as well. In some packages, not this one, you can also monitor competitors, but you can also monitor your own site in this particular one. So this is very similar to TweetDeck, except for TweetDeck only is for Twitter. This one I've got LinkedIn, and there's Facebook to the right. So you can see I've connected. You've got also going to have different tabs. So I've got Leicester Digital, which is the meetup, and you've also got Annika Digital there. I can have my personal one if I wanted to. So this is a live tracking. So this was yesterday. You can see our amazing birthday cake. Yes, there still is some left. I got a big chunk in my fridge, which is not very conducive for my New Year's diet. You've also got a content calendar. This can be filled with social posts. This is the newsletter we sent out. You've then got the ability to publish posts on multiple platforms. You can choose which ones you want to. I was just doing a fake one there. Then you've got workflows and automation. This is really designed for allowing you to build these complex ones. So this is required, they're visual, so you can sort of make and add steps. So it requires a trigger or a filter. I won't really go into too much detail on this. This is quite an advanced functionality. But if you think about it, if somebody fills in a form, you need to let them know that you've received the form. You need to let the staff know. So this is the sorts of complex stuff that we set up. And again, we set that up as part of the onboarding, just to sort of show you some examples of how you can use it. This is what you can use it for. It's things like completing a form, going to a specific page, showing that they're interested in something if they become a hot lead. And then externally, this is where you actually interact with send them an email or send them something. You can use it for abandoned cart, for sending blog content, reminder for maintenance, birthday cards, that sort of stuff. I know I'm overrunning a little bit, guys. I do apologise. There's quite a lot of stuff in these slides. So use of marketing automation for lead scoring. Basically, there's two types here. There's rules around what they fill in the form, and then there's rules around engagement. You can do more advanced versions as well if you want. We also can track opportunities and pipeline. This is really what CRM software is designed to do. So this is where I create an opportunity and I basically track the opportunity down the different stages of the pipeline. So this is, as you send them a quote, you have a meeting, and this talks about the actual project that you might be doing with them. Other functionality, which I didn't talk about then, so task management, integration with other softwares, landing page tests, webinars, integration with Salesforce and other software, shopping cart integration, the remarket and advertising tool, which is mainly targeted at the States. So there's a whole load of other things that each of them do, which are slightly different. So I know that we've sort of reached 10 o'clock. So I'm just going to quickly bring the offer up so that everybody has got a chance to grab the link before you leave. And then I'll talk about the different suppliers. I know I don't normally do it this way around, but I do know that lots of people have got a 10 o'clock meeting. So if you'd like to grab enter now, please press go. And then we'll just carry on with choosing a supplier. Matt, if you want to come back or stick your camera back on, that would be great as well. So there's a tool called Built With, which allows us to see what the most popular software is. You'll see that Hubspot is the most popular marketing automation software in the UK, and Salesforce is the most popular CRM. Interestingly, I would regard InfusionSoft as a marketing automation software. You've got things like Pardo there, so there's a whole range. There's some really expensive enterprise software over here as well, and then there's some free software like Zoho, which do some of this stuff as well. And then you've got the G2. This, as I said, gets more and more complicated. So if you go to G2, you can pretty much look up any type of software. There's a couple of other suppliers that do things like this as well. And you can see that SharpSpring, they were actually bought by Constant Contact, which you might know is a email a software that's been around for years. They're right up here with HubSpot, and another one that I hadn't heard of, which was Campaign. I think that one's Campaign Manager. I'd need to check what that is. I don't know whether, Matt, you can grab this presentation from and grab the link for that one. The slides are in Cinders. And then criteria for choosing a supplier. It's really about what your business objectives are, what the reviews say, the feature lists. And then I think the most important is what the deal-breaking criteria are. It's really difficult. You can get they all do much of a muchness, but there's some things that are really important. And ours was integration with existing CRM. That people that have got Salesforce or whatever, we could integrate with that. The costs vary from about $200 up to sort of $2,000 a month. How scalable they are, and obviously the demos that you get. Our list was really about the price, being able to integrate with existing systems. At the time, HubSpot, etc., didn't offer a free version, but they also insisted on you using their blog, which we didn't like. And we wanted unlimited users per client. So some of them, they charge more the more clients you add on, or more users rather. And that can get really expensive. So you think, oh, this is great. It's just me. It's $20 a month. And then suddenly, you're in a business that's got a lot more users, and it gets really expensive really quickly. We thought a UK office would be nice to have, but that's not really been a problem for us. And also the number of emails you get and the number of contacts. So in the case of SharpSpring, you see they charge on the number of contacts, 1,500, 10,000, 20,000. Our package is actually £500 a month, and we've got 100,000 contacts, 25,000 emails a month, and 250 page impressions. So there's not many businesses that need more than that, unless you are a really big e-commerce website and you're not cleaning out your data. We also do the onboarding work for people. There's a huge amount of work involved in this. It involves 5 days of training and consultancy. It involves software setup, contact management setup, all the customization, email broadcast setup, workflows, advanced features, etc. So we can spread the cost of that because it's a lot of work to pay up front. So if any of you are interested in that, do talk to us later. And we are offering 15% off this month for all of our work. So if you are interested, then we've got a bit of a sale going on for our birthday celebrations. I think that's it. I've just given you the survey. I will put up the review. Let's see if we've got. I said I'd do the Google's review this month. Let me put the Google hopefully that link works. Could you just check that link?
Yeah, no problem.
That link work okay?
Yep, works spot on.
Yeah, you have to be logged in to give us a Google review. We've got a lot of reviews.io reviews now. I know that quite a lot of people would have left, but is there any burning questions that we need to discuss?
There were quite a few questions throughout, actually, that I thought would be relevant to come back to. But a couple of the important ones were, when it comes to pop-ups that are trigger-based, is it correct that Google block these on mobile?
They don't block them, but they don't like them, which is not the same thing.
No,
so they don't like interstitial. So it's really important they don't take up too much room. Also, things like the A10 pop-up, which I showed earlier on, you can have a different version. You can have a smaller version for mobile. So you can sort of style it for mobile in a lot of cases. It does depend on the software you choose. So that's quite an important thing to look at.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And we had one from Ruth as well.
Hi, Ruth.
So yeah, it was quite a long question, actually. But essentially, she said that she certainly gets put off by pop-up sign-ups and long forms. Do we need to be careful to balance this trend with feeling that we need to use all of the features of marketing automation software? Because obviously that they kind of contradict each other a little bit if you overdo it with your marketing.
No, definitely. There was research out this week about what people are prepared to give away and how many people are prepared to fill in forms. There's got to be, we're bartering information and data in exchange for something. So this is why I put the slide up about gated and open content. We give all of our information away, apart from the webinars, because the software requires you to log in. And secondly, there's a heck of a lot of work goes into these webinars, as Matt and I know, from the amount of time. It's a good day's worth of preparation. And if it's a new webinar from scratch, it's a couple of days worth of preparation, plus the time that we, spend doing it. And the same with the A10. The A10 was literally weeks of work. So, if you've got something of real value that they can't get anywhere else, then yeah, you should gate it. But you've got to remember, things that you think, oh, this is really special, you can get anywhere anyway. So if somebody else is offering something similar and you've not added any value, why should somebody sign up for free? Also, make some of the fields not default, not a required field. So if you don't need to know the company name, don't make it a required field. You can add it, but, they don't have to fill it in. So that's what we do with a lot of our stuff, is we make it an optional field.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. And finally, as well, Simon's literally just asked, how effective are pop-ups in our opinion? Do we think that they're good?
I absolutely think they're really good. I mean, interesting. I should have shown you a longer date. We with the new site, our pop-up stopped while we wanted to get a faster version than one we were using, because it was slowing the site down, which is an important factor as well. The software can be quite, because it uses JavaScript, can slow it down, and from a core vitals and SEO point of view, that's a real problem. So we changed software, so we didn't have it on, and the number of time extra A10 inquiries I'm getting a day now, whereas when it wasn't running, you didn't get them because people aren't proactively looking for it. So you've got to use it for the things that are valuable, like a webinar. The things that you want to gate are the things you want to pop up, if you think about it. If you're running an event and you want people to sign up for your event, or you're running a webinar, you've got a really good article that you want, it's gated content, then that's the stuff you should use for pop-ups.
Yeah, and just coming back to the pop-up that we have used, it's called Convert Plus, and it's a WordPress plugin.
Yeah.
Just in case anyone wanted that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Matt. I couldn't remember because it's a new one. We were looking at about 4 or 5 different options. Unfortunately, OptiMonster's got brilliant functionality, but it's also paid for. And the one that we've got, if you can put the name in there, that would be brilliant. It's a free one as well. So not only have you got to consider the SEO implications of it and the functionality, you've also got to consider the cost. And where possible, we'll use a free plugin if we can.
Absolutely.
Was there any other questions?
Free plugin. No, that's it for questions, really. I think there are a couple of others that kind of got answered throughout, so we're all good.
And is it you that's speaking next week? Have you got a webinar next week?
Absolutely.
Have you finally decided what you're going to talk on yet?
Oh no, the excitement's still building.
Okay, all right. Well, you better decide today, because we'll be sending out the email on Monday morning. So hopefully everybody will pick that up. It's going to be on Google Ads though, isn't it? So and paid search and things like that, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is.
Well,
Yeah, it'll be relatively platform specific, but hopefully I'll make it as helpful as possible for everybody.
Yeah, and then also it's designed for people that are not currently using paid search as well. So if you're not even using paid search, it's definitely worth looking at, because we'll try and introduce as many topics as possible. Well, hopefully that was helpful, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll get you the video out in a couple of hours. If there's any questions that you've missed, most of you know my email by now. But if you want to pop me over a question, I'm Anne at annika.co.uk, and Matt is Matt, MATT, at annika.co.uk. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.